Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Living Dvnly podcast. Or should I say, welcome back? This is the podcast that is dedicated to helping you rediscover your true self through refined and intentional living. I'm your host, Amber Janae, and I'm so thrilled to have you on this journey with me. I'm so thrilled to be back. I had to take a pause, take a quick break, and really get realigned and recentered with myself and really focused on how I wanted to approach future episodes of the podcast. But if you're new here, Living Dvnly is all about unpacking and exploring the obstacles that we often face when it comes to curating, building, and mastering a life that embodies our most intentional and authentic selves. In each episode, we dive deep into the challenges of societal conformity, self-exploration, confidence, emotional patterns, and relationships. The goal here is to unearth the complexities of living authentically, understand the origins of our struggles, and find ways to break free from societal norms. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Thank you all who are listeners and subscribers. Even throughout the break, you are still listening to episodes and supporting me, like, subscribing, and sharing. I appreciate you all so much. We are back. Today's episode is going to be a little bit different. Instead of our usual formats, I wanted to do something special and share something a little bit more personal. I feel like I get personal on the podcast, but I don't really share what's happening in my world, in my day to day. A lot of our podcasts are based on previous experiences throughout my growth journey. But I want to do something a little bit more intentional and share a journal entry that I recently wrote for amberjanae.com. But this is just something that I'm currently going through and currently experiencing. And I want to share with you all how I am rediscovering life's rhythm through baking. And this has been a joy in my life. So I hope that you enjoy this deeper dive into my thoughts and my reflections, and maybe even find some inspiration in it for your own personal growth journey. So with that being said, let's jump into the episode. Do you remember the feeling of when you first began to take a hobby seriously? The joy and excitement that your entire spirit feels when you slow down and find the beauty in one or more things that you had no idea you loved so much. That's how I felt about baking when I finally started to do it. There is something profoundly therapeutic about the rhythmic process of baking. The world around me seems to quiet down as I whisk flour, yeast, and other ingredients together. The kitchen sort of becomes a sanctuary where I can escape from the noise and the pressures of life. I hadn't expected that a simple hobby like baking would not only become a source of joy, but also a catalyst for a significant shift in how I approached life. It all began as really a casual interest, a way to pass time and perhaps for me to fulfill a few gnawing cravings of mine. But as the scent of freshly baked bread began to fill my home, I found myself returning to the kitchen, not out of obligation, but because it brought me peace. There was a surprising calmness in following a recipe, knowing that if I measured and mixed everything correctly, something wonderful would come out of the oven. Baking has given me a sense of control in a world that can at times feel chaotic and somewhat unpredictable. As I've spent more time baking, I've begun to notice the parallels between baking and life. The most profound lesson I've learned is that perfection is not the goal here. In life, just as in baking, things don't always turn out as planned. A cake might not rise as much as I hoped, or the dough may have a little bit more salt than I anticipated. Yet these imperfections are a natural part of the process. They don't take away from the joy of baking. Instead, they make the successes all the more sweeter. This realization was very liberating for me. I've always strived for perfection, often to the point of exhaustion. But baking has taught me to embrace the beauty of imperfection. Just as I can try a recipe multiple times until I'm satisfied with the outcome, life offers us endless opportunities to try again, to improve, and to grow. There's no need to be perfect on the first try or even the 10th. What matters is the willingness to keep going, to keep learning. Before I started baking, I often felt intimidated by the idea. I really felt intimidated of trying something new, especially it involving a skill I wasn't quite familiar with. I wondered about failing, about not being good enough. Um, and this isn't just applying to baking, this is pretty much everything in life. I even worried about feeling like an imposter if I chose to document my process of being a beginner when it comes to baking. But standing in front of a mixing bowl, I found these fears were just me internalizing and giving power to the things and the words from others that live outside of me. Baking is a process, and like any process, it requires patience, practice, and a willingness to make mistakes. The more that I bake, the more that I understand that feeling intimidated or incapable will only continue to hold me back from understanding and exploring new things that could potentially fulfill me on levels that I couldn't even imagine. The thing that I love most about baking is how much it requires love and patience. Every step from measuring the ingredients to carefully folding the dough demands so much care and attention. It's a slow process, one that cannot be rushed if you want the best results. This patience is something that I've started to apply to other areas of my life. Baking has reminded me of the value in slowing down in a world that often glorifies speed and efficiency. Not everything needs to be done in a hurry. Some things are just meant to be savored. Much like baking, life is not about rushing to the finish line, but really about enjoying the journey, the moments of waiting, whether it's for the dough to rise or a cake to cool. The moments of waiting are just as important as the moments of action. They give us time to reflect, breathe, and appreciate the process. This newfound appreciation for patience has really changed the way that I approach my lifestyle goals. I used to be relentless in my pursuit of success, constantly striving for the next best achievement. But now I'm learning to take things one step at a time, to allow myself the space to grow without the pressure of a deadline. I'm learning to be kinder to myself and to recognize that growth is a gradual process and that taking things slow is absolutely perfectly okay. Baking has also, in a lot of ways, become a form of self care for me. There's something deeply, deeply nurturing about creating something with my hands and taking raw ingredients and transforming them into something delicious. It's also incredibly fulfilling to sit, make myself a latte, and enjoy a piece of toast from the fresh bread that I baked. It's a reminder that I have the power to create, to bring something beautiful into the world, beside the fact of me being a mother and birthing a human. The act of creation is incredibly empowering, and especially on days when life feels overwhelming. In the kitchen, I find so much solace in the simple act of measuring flour and kneading dough. By the way, I kneaded by hand for the very first time, and yeah, nobody told me that that was an Olympic sport, but we'll leave it at that. These repetitive tasks with baking, they ground me. They bring me back to the present moment. When I am baking, I'm not worrying about the future or dwelling on the past. I am fully immersed in the present moment, in the here and the now. I'm focused on the task at hand. This mindfulness has been incredibly healing, helping me to manage stress and anxiety in a very healthy way. Through baking, I've also discovered the joy of doing something purely for myself. In a world where we're often encouraged to be productive and efficient, it's easy to forget the importance of leisure and play. Baking has reminded me that it is okay to do something simply because it makes me happy. I don't need to monetize it or turn it into a side hustle. It's enough to bake for the sheer pleasure of it, to enjoy the process without any other ulterior motives. One of the most exciting things about baking is that there's always something new to learn. Every recipe offers a new challenge and opportunity to expand my skills. This sense of exploration has one of the most exciting things about baking is there's always something new to learn. Every recipe offers a new challenge and opportunity to expand my skills. This sense of exploration has reignited my curiosity and creativity, not just in the kitchen, but in all areas of life. Hence, why you're listening to this episode. I started approaching life and my creativity with the same sense of wonder and openness that I bring to baking. Instead of shying away from new experiences, I'm embracing them all with enthusiasm. I'm willing to experiment a little bit more, take some risk, and really step outside of my comfort zone. This shift in my mindset has opened up so many new possibilities and allowed me to pursue interests and passions that I might have previously dismissed as too difficult or intimidating. For example, I've always been interested in photography and painting. Fun fact about me, I took a photography class throughout high school, and I even currently take all of my content photos. Well, those that are not professionally shot. But I've never pursued it or taken it seriously, either of these hobbies, photography or painting, because I was afraid that I wouldn't be good at them. But now I'm starting to see photography and painting as just another recipe to follow, another skill to develop with practice and patience. I am no longer holding myself back out of the fear of failure. Instead, I'm just excited to try something new, try some new things, and see where they might lead me. As I continue to bake, I'm finding myself in a new phase of life, one where I'm focused on doing what makes me happy. I'm no longer caught up in a rat race, relentlessly striving for success or perfection. Instead, I'm allowing myself to simply be, to enjoy the present moment without constantly worrying about what's next. This shift has been incredibly freeing for me. I'm learning to let go of the need for external validation, to trust that I am enough just as I am. Baking has taught me that happiness does not come from achieving perfection, but from embracing imperfections and finding joy in the process. It's about achieving and doing what you love, not because you're trying to prove something, but because it brings you peace and fulfillment. As I reflect on this journey, I'm filled with so much joy and so much gratitude for the lessons that baking has taught me so far. And I can't wait to see where all of this takes me on my growth journey. Baking has become more than just a hobby. It's now a metaphor for life itself for me. Through baking, I've learned to slow down, embrace imperfection, be patient, and find joy in the simple things. These are the lessons that will carry me, not just in the kitchen, but every aspect of my life. I'm excited, so excited to continue this journey and explore new recipes and new possibilities. I know that there will be failures along the way because there have been a lot so far, but I am no longer afraid of them. I'm ready to embrace whatever comes from them, whatever comes from this journey, and just passionate about keeping the momentum and keep moving forward. After all, life is a lot like baking. It is messy, it is unpredictable, and sometimes it is imperfect. But it can also be incredibly beautiful with a little love, patience, and creativity. In this new phase of my life, I'm committed to doing what makes me happy and living a life that feels authentic and true to who I am. As I stand in my kitchen, surrounded by the ingredients that will soon become something delicious, I can't help but smile. This is my happy place, and I love it here. Thank you all so much for listening, and I will see you on the next episode.